Woman's voice. Pressure here. Keep pressure right here. Don't you stop. That sound. The constant, earth-shattering thunder of artillery. That was the soundtrack to hell for the surrounded American defenders of Bastogne in December 1944. The Battle of the Bulge was Hitler's last, desperate gamble on the Western Front, and the men of the 101st Airborne were trapped, outnumbered, and freezing. But amidst the snow, the shelling, and the desperation, a different kind of battle was being waged. Not with rifles and grenades, but with scalpels and sulfa powder. In the cellars and cafes of that shattered town, a handful of volunteer nurses, surgeons, and medics created a miracle. They were the last line between a wounded soldier and the grave. They were known simply as the Angels of Bastogne. Welcome to Top Tier TV. To understand the magnitude of what these medical personnel faced, you have to understand the situation. In December 1944, the German army launched a massive surprise offensive through the Ardennes forest. Their goal was to split the Allied forces and capture the port of Antwerp. The 101st Airborne Division was rushed to the critical road junction of Bastogne to hold the line, but they were quickly surrounded. The weather was atrocious. Sub-zero temperatures, deep snow, and a thick fog that grounded Allied air support. The Germans demanded surrender. The American commander, General McAuliffe, sent back his famous one-word reply, "Nuts," but defiance alone wouldn't stop shrapnel. As the German artillery pounded the town, casualties began to flood in. The official aid station, set up in a barracks, was quickly destroyed by a direct hit. The medical personnel, doctors like Jack Pryor and nurses like Augusta Chiwy and Renée Lemaire, were forced to move their operating theater into the only safe place left, the cellars. Imagine this hospital. No running water, no electricity. The only heat came from the bodies crammed inside and a few small stoves. The air was a thick, foul mixture of blood, sweat, gangrene, and ether. The walls shook with every nearby explosion, sending plaster and dust onto the open wounds of the patient. The supplies were devastatingly scarce. They ran out of morphine. They used newspaper for bandages. They performed amputations with hacksaws sterilized in cognac because the medical alcohol was gone. The surgeons worked until their hands cramped and they collapsed from exhaustion, only to be woken minutes later by another wave of casualties. And at the heart of this nightmare were the nurses. Women like Augusta Chiwy, a Belgian nurse of Congolese descent who volunteered to work at the aid station despite not being an official member of the army. She repeatedly braved shellfire to rescue wounded men from the streets, carrying them to safety on her back. Renée Lemaire, a local Belgian nurse, worked tirelessly to comfort the dying and care for the living. They weren't just medical professionals, they were guardians of hope. In that frozen cellar, a nurse's calm voice, a touch of the hand, a sip of water was as vital as any surgery. They were the only comfort these men had in what felt like the end of the world. For days, this was the reality. Work until you drop, sleep for an hour, work again. The line between life and death was razor thin, and the Angels of Bastogne stood firmly on that line. They made impossible choices, triage decisions that would haunt them forever, determining who had a chance and who was too far gone, all while knowing that tomorrow they might be the ones lying on the floor. The psychological toll was unimaginable, yet they never broke. They found strength in their shared mission. They knew that for every soldier they saved, they were striking a blow against the enemy. They were defending not just a town, but the very idea of humanity amidst unparalleled brutality. Then, on December 26th, a new sound joined the thunder of artillery, the distant growl of tanks. Patton's Third Army had broken through. The siege was lifted. When the first tanks of the 4th Armored Division reached Bastogne, they found a scene of apocalyptic destruction. But they also found those cellars, where the medical staff were still working, having saved countless lives against impossible odds. The battle wasn't over, but the tide had turned. The courage of the defenders, including the medical staff, had held. The Angels had kept the flame of life flickering in the deepest dark. The story of the Angels of Bastogne is one of the most profound to emerge from the Second World War. It's a story that goes beyond the combat, reminding us that the greatest heroes are often those who fight not to destroy, but to preserve, to save. These doctors and nurses, both military and civilian, displayed a courage that was quiet, relentless, and utterly selfless. They didn't have weapons to fight back with, only their skill, their compassion, and their refusal to surrender to the darkness. They truly earned their name, not from a command, but from the grateful soldiers who saw them as divine protectors in their darkest hour. If you believe these stories of incredible compassion and courage deserve to be remembered, do us a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe to Top Tier TV. And we want to hear from you in the comments. What other stories of medical bravery or humanitarian courage from history should we cover? Let's get a conversation going. Thanks for watching. Until next time on Top Tier TV.